26?
You know, I've truly missed this part of production of Sqwadcast. It's been so long. I kind of forgot one of my favorite things about recording with Tim here is that he's not 100% certain of his math ability. So Every time he answers a math question, it always has a question mark in it. Like, what's 25 plus 1? 26?
26? Yeah.
So today we're talking about television?
Yes, television part duh. Yeah.
Duh.
Yes, we did. Our first episode was television. That was the first one. And now we're here, back at it.
Episode 1, we talked a lot about Netflix and
talked about
stuff
streaming,
like that. Streaming series and
channels,
stuff like that.
Yeah, how it's changed.
And I disrespected Mike Coulter's entire career. It was great.
And it started a Sqwadcast tradition.
Truly the finest in-joke
yes.
of all time. The finest in-joke being Blake.
Yes, of course. And how Ryan thought Blake was Idris Elba.
Yeah.
So we'll start off from what we discussed in our pre-production meeting, that there seems to be a rebirth of anthology series. Black Mirror, Fargo, even though Fargo is kind of the same universe but different times in said universe. The O.J. Simpson show, which is now the Gianni Versace show. Yeah, there's one about Versace.
Okay.
It's like from the same people who did the O.J. Simpson one.
The people
so
versus
basically,
OJ?
Yeah, the people versus OJ. Yeah.
Alright.
So it seems that's kind of
the way to go.
Almost the new standard. Yeah, that's if you want to create a good short series, you do that. True Detective also.
Exactly what had come to mind is True Detective, and I want to touch back on that because I feel like that's not the best thing to lead off on. I think we should talk about something that's done the anthology series very well, and I think you can't you can't talk about an anthology series right now without talking about the big two: American Horror Story and the other one that he already said, Black Mirror. It was a quiz and you failed. I definitely didn't forget it for a second or anything.
I ran out of time to say a funny one-liner because I was going to say Spanish Horror Story.
Well, Spanish Horror Story is a telenovela series, and those are always splendid.
I was just watching the Psych one where he went
undercover. The telenovela. Yes. Yes. It's all in the eyebrows. It's not in the eyebrows. It's in here. It's in here. That was some top notch Spanglish right there. Oh, perfect. But
anyway, yes.
Touching on American Horror Story, it's a huge success. I mean, you don't get 7-8 seasons in without doing something right. And the fact is they hang on to the right people. They let the people who aren't huge successes go. And the fact is with a long form drama series, you run the risk of, if a character isn't doing the right things and it's better for the story to let that character go, you run the risk of alienating your entire audience if that character is suddenly gone. But with an anthology series, you kind of expect it, and it opens up a lot of variety for you as writers and as showrunners. I can kill this character off at any point I want to.
Yeah.
And the fact is, if people like them, I can just bring that actor back next season.
There was a show called I'm Dying Up Here. It's on Showtime. It's about stand-up in the 70s. And it's not an anthology series, but there's a character. I won't spoil it. But there's a character who you think is the lead character.
He's a real Ned Stark.
With less on-screen time. Somehow. He's shown on Johnny Carson, and then he's shown Living a Good Life, and then he dies. And that's like the first 5 minutes of the show. And you think this is the character the show's going to focus on, and then he's gone. And I think that plays into the fact you can do that. You can just kill someone.
Yeah.
And with to your point though, with the anthology series, you can bring them back next season in a new way. I think with American Horror Story especially, because it's usually the same group of actors.
And they bring in new people, and they cycle out some people who...
Yeah.
the fans of the show maybe don't like, or they just don't have the right role for that actor. That actor is busy with other projects. It's the right kind of series to work on if you're an established actor, I think. If you're a new actor trying to break into the scene, I don't think it's too great for you.
Yeah.
Because if you stumble a little bit and the fans don't respond well to you, you're done.
Well, to counter that, though, you could always say, like, okay, it's one season. Let me get back on track either next season with the same show or try something else.
Yeah.
Another way. If you're like someone who's been on the show for a while and you stumble out of the gates, then you don't really have anywhere to go.
You're not wrong.
Like if they kill you off in a series where they planned on having you and you're just terrible and they killed you off or wrote you out, which means killed you off.
Pretty much.
I don't think then I think that might be slightly worse. Because then it's like the entire series.
Then you run the risk of getting typecast,
yeah,
like James Gandolfini out of The Sopranos. Like he definitely suffered from being typecast as this crazy hard ass, like I'm the boss and you answer to me type. And you look through his entire filmography and it's nothing but that. And he's expressed it in interviews time and time again as I want to experience roles where that isn't me. I want to be a guy who can be a little vulnerable, a guy who can be a bit emotional, and they keep on throwing him in like this stone-faced hard-ass role. I mean, it's got to get a little boring, but that's what happens when you just kind of fit a certain persona particularly well. I mean, I think I've talked about him before, but Vin Diesel, you don't get more typecast than that, and that's just because he's a big, bald, buff dude. He's like a B-tier The Rock. The fact is, you're only getting action roles until you really, prove your range.
Yeah.
And I think Vin Diesel has actually kind of become really happy with what he's doing. Because, you can't really helm the Fast and the Furious franchise for as long as you have and made that much insane amount of money and, be having a bad time with it.
Right, yeah.
And you hang out with The Rock, 6 months a year at this point. And you're making your passion project the rest of the time. Like, the Riddick series, I'm not a huge fan of it, and there have been some stumbles in that series. But, the fact is, the guy has the time and passion and money to do what he loves to do and make what he loves to make. So I can respect that. But anthology series.
Yeah, back to anthology series. So American Horror Story, I think, suffers from having... I never got truly into it. I watched a little bit of the first season, and then I watched the third and fourth I watched with people, because it was one of those situations, because I was at college, so it was one of those situations where everybody was watching it, and I wanted to hang out with friends and not be alone.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, time to watch American Horror Story, and I'm like, well, I'm already hanging out with you guys, might as well see what it's all about. And I just felt like every season was a similar storyline, different setting, but Jessica Lange.
I think it's Lange.
Lange. Jones.
Jones. Okay. All right.
She always plays the evil head of something, and then Evan Peters is the conflicted teen who wants to stick with Jessica Lange, but he doesn't know it, but he knows what he's doing is wrong, and then stuff happens.
Yeah. I watched one of the newer ones, the one that just came on Netflix, Roanoke, and
yeah, I forgot that one.
That one, I've seen it now 1.5 times. One time while I was sober, and half a time while I was tanked. And
fun stuff.
The interesting thing about it is it did open up a lot of opportunity, because the way it sort of pans out, if you don't mind me spoiling it a little bit, spoiler alert. So the first couple of episodes go like a paranormal witness, ghost adventures type deal. The witnesses of a paranormal event, talking a documentary crew through their horrifying experiences in Roanoke, South Carolina, I think.
Virginia.
It was in Carolina. I don't know.
Well,
Roanoke Island.
Oh, you would think that'd be close to Roanoke.
I don't know. It's weird. I can't remember. Again, the last time I watched it, I was tanked off my ass. So,
nice.
Always a good time, especially when it's personally made margaritas that were delicious. They so the first 5 or 6 episodes, it's oh, these are all the horrible things that happened 5 years ago in this house, and oh, there are all these weird ghostly apparitions or whatever, and there's a kid involved. Like, the kid is, like, being kidnapped by a little ghost baby thing. And
Ghost baby thing.
well, I mean, it's like a 7 or 8 year old child, but still, like, meh. And then there are these weird cannibals that live on the property, and it's extra weird. But there's also, like, ghosts, and under the blood moon, all the ghosts work and kill all the people living on the land. And so they're like, okay, this is all the shit that happened there. This is completely bonkers. This is all the shit that happened. Here's all our evidence. Here's all our tapes. Here's everything. And then after the 5th episode, they're like, okay, that was really cool. People really thought that was an amazing story. Now it's a reality TV show. We've gotten all the actors from the recreation and a bunch of the people who were witnesses. They're going back to the house years later. And it's a reality TV show, and the producers are trying to scare them and get them to admit that it's all a lie or whatever. And, of course, it's not actually a lie, and all the ghosts start working to murder everyone. And the cannibals come back, and it gets all kinds of crazy. But that's one of the interesting things about that, is they spend the first couple of episodes killing off a shit ton of the characters in this Paranormal Witness style show. And then the actors come back as the actors playing those characters. And they get to play a completely different role in the same season for a couple of episodes before they die horribly yet again. And it really put a really creative twist on it, and I hadn't seen a season of TV quite like that in a long time. My opinion on American Horror Story, honestly, is that it's a little bit overrated.
I think
it's very overwrought. And I think it needs to take a damn break.
Yeah, I think I heard really good things about the first season, and then I think they tried to match that every time instead of acknowledging, hey, we got really lucky. Which I know you can't really do when FX is like, hey, do this again. You're going to try to do it again. Yeah. But at the same time, you should be like, hey, FX, that was really lucky. Don't expect it again. And then
what's really gonna stop FX from being, well, if you can't do it again, why should we pay for it again? If you're not going to give us the same product, why should we give you the same budget? That's the studio having studio problems. They want their investment to pay off. And speaking of which, of like problems with these kind of series, you've got True Detective.
True Detective.
True Detective, season 1.
That is one of the best seasons of TV
I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it's
ever.
Absolutely phenomenal.
It's also like...
It redefined Woody Harrelson as an actor to me.
It really did.
And it gave me a completely different side of McConaughey I've never seen.
I think that was the biggest thing, that it took two characters who aren't really known for what they did in True Detective and made them...
They breathed a whole different kind of life into those characters. Yeah. And all the actors around them did a phenomenal job. The crew did an amazing job. Yeah. And it had a weird, almost supernatural angle to it with the way the killer like behaved and what he thought and everything going on with the Yellow King.
But it was still realistic.
And Carcosa. And it was very grounded in reality. Did you watch the second season?
I did.
And they didn't do that.
I think, though...
I feel like Vince Vaughn was like, you guys took Woody Harrelson and made him respected as a drama actor. Do that for me. And then Colin Farrell was like, please give me a way to be respected again. And it didn't quite work the same way. Like, there were some scenes in there that were absolutely incredible. Like the shootout in the, I think it was the 3rd or 4th episode.
I only watched it once, and I wasn't paying that much attention because I was like, oh, this isn't as good.
No, it definitely isn't.
But it's only one season, so I need to finish it. That's
and they're 8-episode seasons. Yeah. The thing is, like, first 2 episodes of season 2, they're like, okay, I guess we need to get used to these new characters. All right. And then the 3rd episode is like, okay, things are coming to a head a little bit. 4th episode, oh god, so many people are dead. Like, just innocent civilians just got mowed down in a giant broad daylight gunfight with a bunch of cops.
I do remember that, yeah.
And, like, holy crap. And the only 3 people left standing are Colin Farrell, Rachel McAdams, and White Man. I genuinely can't remember this dude's name. I can't.
Was he a bad guy?
No, he was the good guy. He was the other cop.
Taylor Kitsch.
Thank you.
Yeah. Tim Riggins.
Yeah. But then the rest of the series from there was just downhill. Just nothing really came of all that shit that happened.
Yeah, and I felt like there was a scene, it was like the middle of the season when Colin Farrell got shot in the chest, and that's how the episode ended. And I was like, oh. And then the next episode, nothing really panned out from that.
Yeah.
And I was like, if this was the first season, like, spoiler alert, he probably would have been dead. And that guy would have been, like, a huge player in the game. But I just felt like it was just kind of like, oh, well, never mind, we teased you, but we're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, it's just upsetting, really.
Yeah, and I think that's why, the creator is taking so long on season 3. Like, HBO gave him, like, a window, like, you have, like, 3 or 4 years to give us what you have, and he wants to take his time.
Yeah, and the thing is, he was writing all this promotional material for season 2. It was like, oh, we're delving... Like, they said they were going to be doubling down on the spiritual angle and the supernatural stuff that you saw a little bit of in season 1, and then you saw none of it in season 2. Absolutely nothing. The style was completely different, and it was focusing on more corruption than really the characters. It was focusing on just a bunch of stuff that happened to a bunch of really unlikable people.
Yeah.
I really didn't like any of the characters.
I really didn't. That's another thing too. I was like, oh, I feel like I should be feeling something, but
yeah,
Rachel McAdams is attractive. That's how I feel.
Pretty much. Like, I didn't feel terribly conflicted for Vince Vaughn. Like, oh, okay, you're a gangster who's trying to not be a gangster anymore. But as soon as anything bad happens, you're like, I'm gonna go baseball bat the fuck out of this dude.
Oh, Vince Vaughn.
Oh, Vince Vaughn.
Although I heard his new movie.
Cell Block 99.
Yeah, I heard that is actually pretty good.
I've heard that's amazing.
It's on Amazon Prime, so I want to check it out.
I've honestly been a little bit afraid to watch it. Because I feel like it's going to be another one of those things like, okay, I can't ever look at that guy the same way again. Holy shit. And have you seen the trailer for it?
No, I've only seen clips on YouTube, like when someone's talking about it.
Because I can't tell if it's a prison movie, if it's a heist movie, or if it's just a character piece. Because I genuinely can't tell based off the trailer. It seems like it's a little bit of all of it.
Might have to check it out.
And I was recommended it based off of my love of action movies with hysterically violent scenes. Like The Raid and The Raid 2. If you need violence in your life, that will handle your bloodlust pretty well. Oh my god, the door. Oh god. I saw a man killed with a door in The Raid 1. Just a door. Oh man, that movie was good. It's not in English, but it's good. The thing about True Detective was they tried to do too much in the second season while completely changing everything. They didn't bring back anybody. So there wasn't really anything for fans to invest in.
Yeah, like, I mean, big enough actor, like Rachel McAdams is pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, Colin Farrell is definitely a name. Vince Vaughn is definitely a name.
Vince Vaughn is, I think, better than people give him credit for.
He wasn't what was wrong with that season.
Yeah, like, he wasn't. But then you have Taylor Kitsch, who is known for Friday Night Lights and the ginormous flop that was John Carter, the Disney alien movie that bombed epically. Like, he wasn't really... And that's the thing too. Like, I forget when it came out, but it was definitely one of the earlier ones where it was an anthology, and you had to like get back into the show, not just like I can't wait for next season. It was like, oh, it's back. Now I need to watch it like I'm watching from the beginning again. Because Black Mirror wasn't nearly as popular when season 2 came out. Yeah. I mean, American Horror Story was probably there, probably around the same time. Yeah.
I think Black Mirror wasn't really following American Horror Story. It was I think it was just trying to be a modern revival of Twilight Zone, but focusing on technology, and that's they've stayed true to that vision for sure.
They definitely did. Although
I've seen season 1. I think I've seen an episode or 2 of season 2. And I've seen nothing of season 3, but I've seen the first episode of season 4. One with all the Star Trek VR.
Oh yeah, Callister.
Yeah. That was a funny episode.
That was
hysterical and dark and terrible and just somehow incredibly joyful.
With Fat Matt Damon. And Jimmy Simpson.
Yeah, Jimmy Simpson was fantastic.
Yeah. So you watched the actual first season, not the first season Netflix said was the first season.
You mean the third season?
Yeah.
No, I watched,
You watched the pig one.
I watched the pig one.
Right, because when I first put on Black Mirror, I was like, I might as well get into it. There was the social network one where you rate everybody you meet. Every interaction gets rated. The one with Bryce Dallas Howard.
Okay.
That's season 3, but I thought that was season 1. So Netflix was like, play season 3, episode 2. And I was like, season 3? I don't want to skip the first 2 seasons. And then I realized what they did. And I was like, oh, there's a reason you started me on this episode.
Yeah, we're going to start you on the good shit.
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like the first 2 seasons were like, these are the concepts we want to follow, and then we'll eventually make these episodes good.
Although there are some good.
There are a few gems in there,
Yeah.
and there's not a lot in the early 2 seasons.
I
I
forget,
don't think there's
couple.
even 10 episodes between the first 2 seasons.
I think it's only 6 episodes each.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
And the fact is, like, there are a couple of gems in there, but for the most part, it's harder to watch because it just didn't quite seem like the production team, like the actors, didn't really know what they were pushing for so much.
Yeah, I think the actors might not have known what they were doing because it was a new concept. I think it was British too, and British versus American.
Yeah, and like
it's
I'm
different.
I'm one of those guys, like, I don't usually go for British. Like, British humor, like, is a bit dry for me a lot of the time.
It is really dry.
But the fact is, like, I just started watching The Grand Tour.
Ah.
And I've been dying laughing at that.
I heard that's really good.
Oh my god, I'm like 4 episodes into the first season of it. It's a fucking riot, dude. It's so fucking funny. By this point, they have gone to a special forces compound and gotten killed a whole lot. They blew up Jeremy Clarkson's house.
Ah.
And one of them built a car out of bricks.
Alright.
And it went worse than I'm even making it sound.
Yeah.
He tried to ford a river like it was fucking, oh god, Oregon Trail. It didn't go well. It's an excellent season of TV. I really can't recommend it enough. It is so much fun. There's another anthology series that we could talk about, and it's just escaping me right now, because we've talked about True Detective. We've talked about American Horror Story. We've touched on Black Mirror.
Yeah, I was going to say, we could probably delve into Black Mirror a little more.
Okay.
I think, because you haven't seen the newest season, I felt there was an episode, Hang the DJ, everybody, like, raved about. Everybody was like, you need to see this episode, blah, 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 blah. And I watched it, and I was like, oh. That's it. Like, and I feel like with some of these newer episodes, it might have gone a little too far. Like, Callister was great, and I heard Black Museum is really good, which is the last episode. But everything else, I was like, I haven't gone back into it. I watched the first 4 episodes. I was like, kind of don't want to watch it anymore. Like, it doesn't feel like the first 3, you know. And season 3 was more American than the first 2, but at the same time, it was still really good.
Yeah.
I feel like they might have gotten too into it. Like, they're like, we could do it, and you guys are gonna like it. And it's like, no, you still actually have to try.
Yeah, I think what had happened was they were they got a fan base by producing some top-notch episodes when they were under the gun, and they got big name celebrities to kind of pop in and be like, hey, we'll help. And like they had them like involved and interested in the project, and like they had a lot of input from a lot of good people, and then they were like, okay, we've proven ourselves, and I think people will follow us while we try other things. Like, no you get back on track right now.
Yeah. Do that.
One good season out of 3 does not make you a legend. Start making good things again.
And it's like the celebrity thing was a good point, because like the first few episodes I watched, I recognized Braun in that one episode from Game of Thrones in Shut Up and Dance. I recognized him, and then I recognized John Hamm, because who doesn't recognize John Hamm? But other than that, I was like, I don't know these characters, and I think that worked better because I didn't know who these people were. And I don't know if they're big in England or not, but to me, I was like, okay, I don't know who these people are. So I can watch each episode and be like, okay, these are characters, not actors. And then the newest season was like, oh, these are all faces I recognize for the most part.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool from one standpoint. It's like all these unknown actors or like non-internationally renowned actors
like
are getting big recognition, big screen time, stuff like that. Like, honestly, like, if I hadn't seen Jurassic World, I wouldn't know who Bryce Dallas Howard was, if I'm being totally honest. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't say she's an A-lister or anything.
I didn't recognize her in the episode she was in, but I knew who she was from Jurassic World, and then when I saw she got nominated for the Golden Globe and I think SAG Award, I was like, she got nominated for Jurassic World? And then I was like, for Black Mirror. I was like, oh, this is the same person.
That makes sense. And that's also one of those things is, you know, these anthology series open up opportunities for these actors to come in and do like single episodes and stuff like that, and short stints for over a few episodes and do some fantastic work. But there's also the problem of you're pretty much completely at the whim of the writers.
You really are. You can't. I know, like, sometimes, I know Modern Family does it, and I think Breaking Bad does it too, and Scrubs did a little bit, was after a while you would turn to the actors or bring in a guest director and be like, hey, like, what do you guys think? Like, you kind of have a feel for the show, so you can do 1 or 2 episodes. Like, Zach Braff directed that one episode of Scrubs where he tried to hook up with Molly and he zip-lined down into the garbage. He spent the whole episode going after that. Like, he directed that episode. Yeah. But with one episode, it is kind of high risk, high reward, because if you don't do well, you can't be like, well, give me an episode or 2 to let me get into it. Like, you need to nail it in that one episode.
Yeah, which is probably means there's going to be a longer production time. There's going to be a lot of there's going to be longer pre-production as well. You're working with these actors and like, what's this character? Who are they? What's their motivation? What is chasing them? What are they running to? What are they running from? You know, and with a single episode, you might not get the best effort out of certain actors just because they're not used to just dropping into a new role and nailing it in a single instance. I mean, it's a streaming service like bulk delivery, so if you aren't phenomenal, people aren't going to give a shit about that episode. Yeah, and that's a problem. It's like, oh, you get 5 hour-long or 6 to 8 hour-long episodes, and basically all of the episodes are competing with one another to see which one's the best.
Yeah, and that's why I think I can name a few off the top of my head of this is the one I liked, and then other ones I have to be like, oh yeah, that was an episode. Like, Shut Up and Dance is my favorite one. I think the tension and the build and then the twist at the end was just so well played.
Shut Up and Dance, that was the one with the weird talent show and the points?
No, that was 16 Million Merits.
Oh, okay.
With the dude from Get Out. Shut Up and Dance was the one with the kid who kept getting the texts telling him what to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that one or not.
I don't think I did.
That one's the one Bronson.
Okay.
Yeah, but that one was. And then there's, like, I remember the Bryce Dallas Howard one because, like, it was the first one I watched, and it had a pretty good premise. And then after that, like, the one with John Hamm, because that one was really good, even though that was confusing.
A lot of them are confusing.
A lot. That's another thing, too, about one episode. It's like, here's our premise. We need to make it clear enough for you to get, but also we can't explain everything because we need to get to what's going on.
Yeah, there is that, and there's also one of the chief complaints I've heard about Black Mirror, and I would agree based on like what I've seen of it, is a friend of mine wrote this huge post on Facebook going episode by episode on season 4 of Black Mirror.
Wait, was this one post or was
it? It was a single post, and it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and he just was just like, here is my like one sentence takeaway from each episode.
At least there's only one sentence, but
and he was just like bang, 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 and then at the very end, it was like, my problem is maybe it's my problem and not everybody else's problem, but they left everything open-ended, and you have no idea what's really going to happen to any of the characters. If they're going to have a happy ending, let them have a happy ending. If they're going to have a terrible, horrible ending where they're doomed for the rest of eternity, let us know. But, like, when you leave it so ambiguous, there's no real closure in it for the viewer. And, like,
for season 4,
what he said was, and if you want to have those ambiguous endings, they're more impactful when it's not every episode.
Yeah, I think looking back at comparing the 4 episodes I saw of episode 4, with the other episodes, there were a couple in the first 3 seasons where it was ambiguous, but you still kind of knew what was happening.
Yeah.
Like the John Hamm one, I think it's White Christmas. Mm-hmm. White Christmas, yes, it's a little ambiguous, but you know. And with the other one, I forget the other, but there's a couple of them. But then, like, Callister, like, there's a huge debate on Reddit about if it's a happy ending or not. Like, Jimmy Simpson said it wasn't. He was on the show. Yeah. Other people are like, oh, they got away, yay, they're free. But they're digital, but they're real.
They earned their freedom, but they're still in... They got out of one guy's personal playground and into the contested playground of millions of other people.
Where
Aaron Paul yells at them. I was watching that with a friend of mine who was a huge Breaking Bad fan. As soon as that guy started talking, he shot up. Is that Aaron Paul? Yeah. There are a few fan bases quite as like quietly rabid as Breaking Bad. Holy shit! And the fact is, the show, I didn't ever get to watch it. Really, I didn't get to get into it. But first episode, I've just, the thing is, I never have people who are like, dude, you've got to watch Breaking Bad. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. It's more like, just give it a chance, dude. Like, there's total confidence that there is something that you will like in this series. There is no real, like, you have to watch this. It's more like, this was such a rewarding show. Like, I got what I needed out of it. And, like, I could recommend it to you, but whatever.
I think you should, even though you know what happens. I think you should, because I think that plays a part that, like, even when I was watching it, I knew what happened. But there are some scenes you're like, how? Like, I know the result, but how does that happen given the circumstances that are happening?
Yeah.
You know? I think that adds to it.
Maybe it does.
Breaking Bad's also, like, Vince Gilligan was like, this is what I'm doing, AMC, and this is how everything's going to play out, and it's going to be 5 seasons, and I know exactly what's going to happen from the beginning. Let me do it. Like, it wasn't a season by season, like, oh, what can we do more? He knew exactly where it was going. So, and that shows.
I could definitely plug my favorite show here, but, maybe...
Is it Psych?
No. But I mean,
Ryan gives a look.
I sure do. In my favorite show that I find a way to mention in just about every episode, the writers of the novel series are executive producers of the series and are involved in every meeting. And they just released, I think, the 7th book in the series, and they've had the entire series planned out since before they put pen to paper. And that's why they sold it to Sci-Fi. That's how they managed to sell it to Sci-Fi, I should say, is that this isn't going to be Battlestar Galactica. We actually know how we're going to end the series, and it's not going to be pseudo-religious, prophecy-driven, weird, hard left turn into Nonsenseville.
Weird left turn into Nonsenseville.
I mean, it really is. If you watched the last season of Battlestar Galactica, you would know what I'm talking about. It's so weird, man. It's so weird. Because they were just like, we're out of twists. So there are more humans that are actually not humans. Yes, you gotta figure out who they are.
Sounds like a sci-fi show.
And it felt like they ran out of ideas. And they're like, okay, they've just gotta find Earth. Just let them find Earth, goddamn. And then they found Earth. And then it was not so good. And then they found another planet and just decided that was Earth now. That's how that's how it ends. Yeah. But there's a lot more religious conflict than that. And they find Earth right when the first evolution of humanity was kind of separating from apes. That's when all these spaceships started to land on Earth. And then they were like, let's not just throw a hyper-advanced society on top of this brand new planet. Maybe we should try again. And then they sent all the ships off into space. And they left it kind of ambiguous. They're like, hey, we're going to leave the Cylons off to do their own thing, because there were some Cylons that were like, maybe we shouldn't exterminate all humans. And so they're like, we'll leave them to do their own thing. They can go fuck off into space or whatever. Maybe they'll come back and annihilate us. Maybe they won't. It'll be interesting. But it's implied that since it goes millions of years into the future and it's modern day New York, that it is implied by people in the series that the Cylons did come back and wiped the face of the Earth clean. Because like, you see that some pieces of technology and some ideas about farming and stuff like that, that would be millions of years ahead of its time, were going to come to the planet and race us ahead in technology and evolution and stuff like that. The only way that doesn't affect modern day Earth is if those robots come back and wipe humanity off the face of the planet. And that is a cold little piece of fridge logic. And that is something else we wanted to talk about today.
Segues.
Come on. That was good. That was good. It was completely off the cuff, too.
So, fridge logic is...
It's the stuff that's not explicitly told to you about a universe or a character or a series that on another viewing later on or later thought on it, you kind of realize, and it's a cold, chilling concept. There's certain things in Harry Potter I'm sure you can tell us about.
Harry Potter. I think it's weird that they still write with quills and they don't have pens and paper or electronics. It was said in The Goblet of Fire, dropping my Harry Potter knowledge now, where they think, it's said in the book, I don't know if it's said in the movie, that they think Rita Skeeter is spying on them, and either Harry or Ron says, oh, maybe she's using a microphone, and Hermione's like, no, like, electronics don't work in Hogwarts. And I'm like, so nothing, like, at all works in, like, you don't have a TV? Or, like, cell phones? Or, like, I mean, technically it takes place in the early 90s, so cell phones aren't that big. But, like, you don't have a computer to do stuff on? And I know it sounds weird, like, saying it, but because you think, oh, Castle takes place in, like, fantasy world, and, like, Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, where it's like, that's just how things are. But the book takes place in the 90s. Like, there's technology humans developed that you're choosing not to use.
The Weasleys have a flying Ford Anglia, I think is what it was. And it was like a 1986 Anglia. Yeah. So it was a little old for the time, but that was just the Weasleys.
And that was also Arthur Weasley trying to figure out how it worked. He like, wanted to take it apart and see how it worked. And I'm like, I get brooms are a thing, and you can teleport. You can apparate places, which is convenient, but, like...
I mean, do you know everything about how a car works, Tim?
I don't, but I'm just saying I like having a car to get places.
It's an interesting thought. Is why don't they use something as simple as... That doesn't require electronics, it's just ink.
Yeah. They're still writing on parchment, and I'm like...
And I think it's just a bit of world building, and I think it also has to do with the environment that the students are kept in, as, like, an idea is like, hey, what's going on? Why aren't these kids just using damn pencils?
Yeah. Like, I can't imagine Hermione, who is, one, a bookworm.
And two, a muggle.
A muggle. Goes into Hogwarts with, like...
Quill.
Yeah. Like, I can imagine her going to, like, Target on the week before the first day of school and get, like, pens and papers and notebooks. And then it's like, you need to write 3 parchment papers with ink.
So is that 8.5 by 11?
Yeah.
Or should you just go get one of those musty old scrolls that they sell for a gold coin?
I think as someone in the education system, I think the Harry Potter education system is bad too. Like,
very conservative.
It's conservative, yes. There's no health. There's no PE. There's no math.
Oh, there's arithmancy, but that's like mathematical magic, and they never actually explain what the fuck it is.
Yeah, it's just in the books as like, how is Hermione taking that in ancient runes and divination all at once? So there's that. There's no, like, is there curriculum they need to follow? Like, Is there a board of education? Is Hogwarts the only school?
Hogwarts is run directly, like, answering to the Ministry of Magic.
So
they have to have a Department of Education in the Ministry of Magic.
Right, you would think. Like, do you work your way up? Do you become like principal to superintendent? Like, equivalent?
It seems like Dumbledore answers directly to Cornelius Fudge.
So headmaster to Minister of Magic.
Yeah, but I don't think you just get promoted from one to the next.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, there has to be someone there. There has to be...
There's also, in the third book, Prisoner of Azkaban, Lucius Malfoy...
The best. Don't at me.
Is one of the guys to get... in the second book, he gets Hagrid arrested, and he is one of the God, I can't remember the word. One of the 12 somethings of the school board.
Right, yeah, I forget the word, but yeah, I do remember that. It's basically a board of directors.
Yeah, pretty much.
But school.
So that is who Dumbledore answers to.
Yeah.
And then they, I guess,
have the power to arrest people.
Well, they can demand the Ministry hold someone. I guess, I don't know.
And Hagrid got sent to Azkaban.
Yeah, he did in the second book.
Before being convicted.
Being convicted.
Like, imagine going to a holding cell, but instead of a holding cell, it's Azkaban.
Yeah.
Like, is that the only jail too? Do they not have
It's
juvie?
the wizard prison.
Yeah, but
the juvie is just detention at Hogwarts. Because you remember they sent 11-year-olds into the Forbidden Forest. They were like,
as detention, right?
Yeah, as detention.
Why not just write an
They were like, you kids who are, not capable of adult reasoning or logic are having problems adjusting to this brand new lifestyle that you've been part of for a month. We're going to go make you fight werewolves and centaurs and giant spiders and, all of that in the dark with a 8-foot tall man who can't legally do magic to protect you and his big dog that is scared of everything. That makes sense.
They also went with Filch, who also can't do magic.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, detention. Why can't you just have lunch with the professor?
Honestly, it seems like Dolores Umbridge had the most reasonable detention methods. And that was literally, I am going to make you carve a sentence into your own hand.
And that's the most reasonable one.
That is the most reasonable punishment in all of Hogwarts.
I mean, when you think about it, yeah. What was some other detentions? It was one with... Ron had to clean the trophy room by hand, and it was 800. It was 3,000 years worth of trophies. Yeah.
And he had to polish everything while vomiting slugs everywhere the entire time. And they just left him. They locked him in there until he was done.
Yeah. There was fan mail with Lockhart in the same detention.
Oh yeah, that was one.
That kind of played a role in the plot, but still, that's detention, and it's 4 hours. They stayed from 8 till midnight. I've heard of after-school suspension, but
that's a bit much.
Yeah. Also, can you go home on the weekends? It seems like people only go home on Christmas and Easter.
I think they mention it in the books is that the majority of the students just stay on the weekends. But, from third year on, you can go to Hogsmeade, the town.
Right.
But I think, for special circumstances...
Only certain weekends, though. It's not every weekend. You can't just walk into Hogsmeade. There's another thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're kind of ruining Harry Potter.
Yeah, we are kind of attacking it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's... they give the students a certain degree of freedom, but it's still you have to stay in the school grounds.
Yeah. There are some luxuries.
And look at the third book. You have to stay on the school grounds, or the soul-sucking, Grim Reaper death beasts that are here to definitely protect you.
Yeah, and not just...
might fuck your whole soul up. Interesting. That's some quality decision making by that Board of Education.
I always question how they make the schedules too. Somebody has to make the schedules.
Yeah.
They get schedules at the beginning of every year. Somebody has to make sure all the grades are getting all the subjects without overlapping each other. And first, are there adjunct professors at Hogwarts? Does Hagrid only teach magical creatures for a certain amount? Because some classes you don't take in your later years. They say that in the 6th book.
Yeah.
You don't have to take certain classes. So, if less than 10 kids sign up, does the class not exist anymore?
Well, look at divination. In the third year, you start dealing with all the elective courses. You're still stuck with potions and charms.
Yeah.
And, I think transfiguration was still mandatory.
Yeah, I think those are the main ones you take all 7 years.
And defense against the dark arts, for what that's worth. They had
Is potions required?
Harry would have dropped out of it immediately.
But he didn't have to take it though. he took it to become an horror, but then he wasn't in it, but then the new professor had a lower requirement.
Yeah. I don't remember.
Get into the detail.
Yeah. I reread the first, 3 books, and I was halfway through the 4th book, 3 months ago. Actually, not 2 months ago. And then a friend of mine for Christmas got me the Expanse first 3 books.
There you go.
And I have caught up to the show in the books. And I'm like, I can't. I actually asked my girlfriend to hide them from me. I was like, please don't. I gave her the 2nd book and the 3rd book. I'm like, I'm 2/3 of the way through the 2nd book now. And I'm just like, take them and hide them. If you forget where they are, that's fine. Because I need to get to the next couple of months in this year till the 3rd season starts up. And then I can continue to torture myself.
Yeah.
But I got about halfway through Goblet of Fire.
I reread them over the summer, not as lifeguarding. They have a perfect lifeguarding book.
Yeah.
If someone comes in, I could just put it down. I'm not that into it.
Yeah. I feel like the first 4 books are the best ones. I think. 3rd one's the best movie. 4th one's the best book.
4th one is a really good book. It's a Triwizard Tournament. It's so good.
Yeah.
And they killed it. They dismantled it and made fun of its mom in the 4th movie.
Yeah. It wasn't. The movie itself wasn't bad, but I feel like it just didn't capture.
But it was so far.
It just didn't capture everything that was really going on with the characters.
I watched a video, I forget who it was by, but they said the problem was that they had 4 or 5 different directors for all the movies. So it was a different take on Hogwarts every time a new director came in. I was watching a video from Nerdwriter. You know Nerdwriter? He's on YouTube.
Nope.
Alright. Well, he does videos about everything, movies, TV, music, comedy, even. And he did one about the 3rd one, and that it's the director is known for long, continuous shots. And he did that in the 3rd one, and it was really good movie making. But compared to the other movies, it felt different, and that's how they different directors.
Yeah, and Azkaban felt like a totally different movie than the rest. It really did. It had.
I mean, it was the turning point, I think.
It was the turning point in the series.
Too, yeah.
That was okay, this isn't whimsical childhood fun. This is really life and death.
Yeah.
And there are characters in here with tragic stories, and if you look at the first 2 movies, it's bright and cheery during the day, and it's dark and mystical at night. And then in Azkaban, it's grim and gloomy 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Except in Defense Against the Dark Arts, because it's just how Harry's feeling is. He's under this cloud of fear and confusion. Yeah. And he doesn't know who to really trust because everybody is just keeping stuff from him nonstop. And the only person who's not really keeping stuff from him is his Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. And that's where he truly feels happy. And it's the only real room in the entire movie where it's brightly lit. Yeah. And there's fun being had and people are laughing and having a good time. And the rest of it's just Mr. Potter.
Soul-sucking Grim Reaper things.
Yeah.
Are outside.
Pretty much. And it's an interesting way, and I thought it's a great movie. I really love it as a movie. But it does stand out completely from the rest of the series. And the 4th movie, I thought it was good. It didn't really do the book justice. And I think the 4th book is the best book in the series.
I love the 4th book.
I feel like both really lost their steam at the 5th book. I feel like Order of the Phoenix was a forgettable movie.
It was, and it was also really long.
It was a slog of a book.
Yeah.
And it was like the first Harry Potter book I actually read.
You started with the 5th one?
I was young and naive. So what had happened?
Are you just Tarantinoing it?
Here's what happened. Here's what happened was I watched the first movie and I was like, oh, this seems really cool. And my dad, despite loving reading books, isn't very good at determining the order of a series. So my dad walks into Barnes and Noble and is like, I want the next Harry Potter book, and got it for me for my birthday. And he's like, here you go, son. And I started reading it and I was like, who are these people? What is going on? And then I went back to the front page. Book 5? There are 5 books? Holy shit. Okay. All right. Okay.
Hold on.
We can save this. So I went down to the library and I checked out the first 3 books and I just chugged through them. And I got to the 4th book And I got through that, and I think the second movie had come out by this point. I think we were waiting for the third movie to come out by the time I finally went back and started the books again. Like, the third movie was just about to come out. And I was like, do I want to read the book or do I want to watch the movie first? And I was really, torn. And I think I ended up watching the movie and then reading the book the next day. And then I read the fourth book, and then I read Order of the Phoenix. And it was a slog. It was dreary, it was slow, and I feel like it was all for 3 chapters of plot movement.
Yeah,
and then
Order of Phoenix didn't really do much.
Yeah, they
kind
really
of broke apart really quickly.
Yeah.
It was like the secret from Harry, and then they still tried to keep it a secret, and then they're like, okay, this is what we're doing, and then nothing.
Yep. And then it's just, the Half-Blood Prince was like, oh, I guess the series is just going to end badly then. Alright, that sucks.
I didn't mind the Half-Blood Prince. Well, before we get into that, I was giggling a lot during Ryan's rant, and I was listening, but I just kept thinking, you read book 5, and that's the first one you read, and you're like, crap, I need to go back to the first one to figure out what's going on, and it ends up like Harry fucks a pig in the first one.
Pretty much.
Sorry, I was sitting on that Black Mirror callback.
That Black Mirror callback. God damn, man.
That explains it. Anyway, I think the 6th one, kind of went back to, where Hogwarts and stuff is happening and school is happening, whereas Order of the Phoenix was there's a lot of stuff happening. I mean, Umbridge is a huge villain, but besides that, it's a lot of ministry stuff, and it's a lot of personal life stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas 6th one kind of brought it back to school, and 7th one was like, hey, alright, fuck that, we're out.
I feel like the 5th one was, Harry's like, I need to take on a bigger role for myself. I need to grow as a person and try and not just be the boy who lived and try and actually do something and make a difference. If I'm going to be this big figure that everybody looks up to, I might as well do something with it. And I think that was an important thing, but the 6th book was, well, that went horribly pear-shaped, and yeah. I am now mourning the closest thing I've ever really had to family, and he is dead now because I did something stupid.
Yeah.
And I did something brave, but I didn't understand what was completely going on because I wasn't really told the full situation. And surprise, surprise, adults don't trust children with state secrets.
Adults don't trust 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
I think
they're so young throughout this series.
Yeah. I hear a lot of people
17.
Yeah. He but at Half-Blood Prince, he's like, okay, clearly I'm not equipped to fight the forces of evil. I think I need to do a little bit more learning, and that's why he starts digging into a little bit of the semi-dark arts left by the Half-Blood Prince. And he's like, I really need to take this seriously, and there's stuff going on, and I'm really sad, and stuff is lame, and people don't get me, man, and just it's
emo Harry Potter.
Pretend like it wasn't.
Just and like we pretend Spider-Man 3 didn't happen.
Exactly. It's the exact same thing. He's 16 and he's grieving and he's got to make all these decisions about what his life is going to be, and he just doesn't fucking want to. He just wants to stay in school and live his life, but now he's realizing that he can't. And then book 7 happens and it's all just ripped out from under him, and he's living on the run with his best friend's girl. And yeah.
No, I agree with that. I was thinking if Harry didn't go to 7, and neither did Ron or Hermione, can they just go back to school? Is it like college where you can take a year off and go back? Or is it like high school where you drop out and you don't?
Who the fuck is even going to still be teaching at that school? Is anyone still alive?
So there's Hogwarts
there's McGonagall. Right. There's McGonagall still alive. I think Hagrid was still alive.
Hagrid definitely survived.
It's been a while since I've read the book.
He got beaten down, but he survived.
Yeah.
Snape
happened. Dumbledore happened. Every Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher up to that point happened.
Well, technically Slughorn was still there teaching potions.
Yeah.
Flitwick was still there.
Yeah, so you've got Slughorn, you got Flitwick,
what's her face?
McGonagall.
The herbology teacher.
Professor Sprout?
Yes, Sprout. She was still there.
Yeah.
They had the centaur teaching divination.
Yeah.
So they have 2 divination teachers now. They have the budget to hire 2 teachers. Do they have a budget at Hogwarts? How do teachers get paid? Are they as underpaid as they are?
The centaur's a centaur. I don't think he wanted money.
That's true. He didn't want money. He just wanted a place to be because he got exiled.
Yeah.
So he was like, I'll teach if you give me a place to live. And Dumbledore's like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you go to college in the Harry Potter world? Or do you just teach when you're 18? Because if you graduate...
Here's my statement. Look at Percy. All right, he was a 5th year in book 1. Then 2 and 3, he's 7th year by book 3. By book 4, he's working in the Ministry of Magic. And he's like the right-hand man to a higher-up.
Yeah.
He's a right-hand to, I think, Mr. Crouch.
Yeah. Who doesn't know his name.
Yeah, who does not know his name.
Right.
And like worships the ground he walks on. He's 18 years old, and he's working for the government. And so I don't think there's really university. But we don't really ever get a concrete understanding of these kids' schedules, of what they're being taught, and how, and why, and for how long.
Yeah, like...
So you've got to assume that there are courses like... maybe not...
Is there home ec? Is there driver's ed?
Brooms.
Yeah.
His driver's ed. Home ec would probably be herbology. I feel like history of magic would also basically be reading and writing.
Yeah. Do they grade on grammar, though? If you don't take an English class? If you don't go to school till 10, how do you know how to write?
Have you read the books? If you submitted a written essay to Professor Snape and it had a spelling error, he would give you a below satisfactory grade. I'm nerding out way too hard on Harry Potter right now.
This is what Harry Potter is, though. It releases your inner nerd.
I don't have an inner nerd. I just have an outer nerd.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of things to think about with Harry Potter.
Yeah. See, when I had thought like, oh yeah, that's like fridge logic type stuff, like cold, like stuff that you're not really supposed to acknowledge, but it fits when you think about it. Like, oh, that's why that character is acting like that, or oh, that's why that character knows that. And I'm going to drop an Expanse spoiler if you don't mind. So there's a character named Amos Burton. He's basically a mechanic who's got he's got some kind of problem with himself where he is not good at empathy, and he is talking to another character who is like completely okay with killing hundreds of thousands of people and just sort of watching what happens. And the other characters are like, how do we get this guy to tell us what he's working on and what he's doing? And Amos says over the course of a few different scenes over the course of the series up to this point that he grew up in Baltimore, Maryland.
And that's it. That explains why he's like the way he is.
The thing is, he grew up in a brothel. He was raised by prostitutes in a brothel in a slum in Maryland, and like he got out of that life. But he talks about the churn when you're like when you're just some goon, you're some hired gun, hired muscle. You expect that you're gonna die and nothing is gonna happen and nobody's gonna care, and that ultimately the only people that anybody's going to give a damn about are the people that do the terrible shit and the people that do the good shit. And he talks about this guy. He said, it's like talking to a pedophile. If you judge them, they're going to hide everything from you. They're going to shut down and they're going to not let you talk to them. But if you show them a picture of a kid, they'll tell you everything. And the first time he says it, you're just like, oh, okay, that's good logic. And then you think he grew up in a brothel.
Yep.
And that happened to me the second time I watched that episode. It's like, wait, Amos grew up in a brothel, and he's not very good with understanding the value of human life. Shit.
Yeah.
That's like the penultimate, like, fridge logic, because no one ever really like points that out. Everyone else on screen is just like, huh, and moves on, and Amos just kind of shrugs it off. That's one of those things, like, it's not pointed out, but when you think about it, it's cold, and it's dark. That's fridge logic to me. I think I'm running out of time, and if I take any longer, my girlfriend might be mad at me. So I might have to duck out of Sqwadcast 26.
Yeah, we are over now. We're at an hour 11. So
right.
Yeah, we'll end it.
I'm sorry, listener.
That was TV part 2, kind of, sort of.
I guess it Anthology series, Harry Potter, and Fridge Logic.
Yeah, it was an anthology series for 40 minutes and then Harry Potter and Fridge Logic for 20. Because that's how things work here.
No, it was Fridge Logic for like 2 minutes, Harry Potter for 20, and then back to Fridge Logic for another like 2 minutes.
We got into Harry Potter. It happens.
Yeah, millions of people have had it happen.
Yeah.
They got into Harry Potter. It was worth it.
How's the housing market in the Harry Potter universe? Was there like a bubble, like The Big Short explained? Can you just buy a house in Harry Potter? Is there mortgages? Because they only have 3 things of currency.
Yeah.
That's a lot of galleons to drop.
Well, yeah. You've got to think there's lending and that sort of thing.
I mean,
otherwise they wouldn't have a bank.
Yeah, the bank does exist.
Yeah.
But those goblins, man.
They do goblin things. I think the big takeaway is that with world building, you want to kind of leave a little bit of it ambiguous to let miserable nerds like us debate.
Well, yes. Yes.
It's also usually because I don't think J.K. Rowling has the answer to that. Like, how does the wizarding housing market work? Oh, that'll come in book 17. Like, It seems like for the most part, they just kind of find a structure and like, we'll work on it.
Yeah, I know it's not important, but Harry Potter is just one of those universes that's so big that these things do happen.
Yeah, and if money didn't talk in the wizarding world, why are the Malfoys so powerful?
Yeah, damn you, Malfoys. Shakes fist.
All right.
Okay, that's it. We're done.
Sqwadcast out.
Ah, it didn't stop.
No.